This episode is brought to you by Monogram. Welcome to the Design Dash podcast, your guide to designing a life you love. Join us as we explore the keys to living the life you want without compromise. Hey everybody, welcome to the Design Dash podcast. I am your host, Melissa Grove. I'm also here with my co-host, Laura Umansky. And we are going to talk about work today, as we always do, but we're going to be a little bit different about it today because we're going to talk about what happens when purpose is gone, right? Work is feeling a little bit mundane.
Dropping it here. When purpose is gone.
It's over. How do you get that back? So I think this is a really tricky subject because for entrepreneurs, like this is your baby. You don't just want to get up and walk away, right? I mean, you could, but a lot of us are also high achievers, so we don't want to give up. We really want to find passion and purpose and meaning in our work. And so this came up for us a little bit because we just wrote a fantastic article on this on designdash.com. Please check out that article after this podcast to get the full, I think, 14 items that we tell you to get the passion back. But we're going to talk about it today because I know, Laura, we've both felt this from time to time, the burnout,
for sure.
What are you doing?
Why am I doing this every day for the rest of my life?
Right.
Yeah, for sure. I think everybody goes through this, and just like so many things that are important to you, it's seasonal too, or it feels like there's seasons in your life where you're very inspired by your work. And it may not be like one specific thing that all of a sudden you're just like, God, this is just not for me. But it's like just things build up over time and things get difficult. Like you may have a difficult project or things just aren't going your way, or you have a lot of personal stuff going on, and like focusing on work just seems exhausting. And you may just lose sight of that purpose. So yeah, I've been there for sure. I guess the good news is for me, it always comes back, like that feeling of fulfillment in my work. And I think it's a lot about mindset, but it's also about what else are you doing in your life? Because it can't all just be work all the time.
Right. So when you're in those moments, what do you do to get out of it? Like you just take a trip, you find some inspiration elsewhere. What are you doing?
I take a step back and look at big picture. Usually if I'm really burned out or I feel like I just have lost sight of purpose, it's because I can't see the forest for the trees. And I'm way too in the weeds and I'm using a lot of botanical references here. A lot of flora. I think it's just because I'm too close to the details and I'm not a detailed person, and I'm getting into stuff I probably have no business getting involved in.
Yeah.
That's vague. But yeah, usually that's what I'm finding. When I find that like I've lost motivation or I just don't care anymore about my day to day, it's because I'm doing the wrong stuff.
Okay.
I'm focused on things I shouldn't. Like I'm getting involved in drafting for a project or, I'm just doing like, I'm choosing a trim for a pillow. That is not anything that I find fulfilling. I did early in my career as a designer. I loved it. But then at some point I'm just like, that's just not fulfilling for me anymore. And so if I'm doing those things, that's why I'm getting burned out.
Well, that's interesting too, because it can be dynamic, right? The things that you felt passion for before, that may not be the case, 6 years down the road or, even maybe 6 months down the road, depending on where you are in your journey. Yeah, I think that for me, because I'm not doing the design work, but for me, so much it can be just getting wrapped up in, you're right, the little stuff and not seeing the big picture and not taking the vision. I think that's why it's so important for leaders in an organization to establish a vision very early on and repeat that vision with your team, right? Because it's so easy, I think, to get lost in those minute little details, and the vision is what's exciting. And if you're not talking about the vision, then you're stuck on invoicing, and that's definitely not exciting.
Oh God, invoicing. I didn't even think of that. Yes, I agree. It's vision. And I think it's also like you lose it from time to time. I mean, I could even lose it for a year.
Yeah.
You know,
wow.
and it's just gone. And then you just have to I think you come back to it. And that's what I've done recently too. Just come back and revisit that vision. But what happens, I guess this is a question. This is not a statement. What happens when you revisit that vision and it's still like the passion's not there and you're like, whoa, this is just not for me anymore. And that's okay.
Yeah.
But like, what would you do? How would you approach that? Would you just bail? You're just like, let's just light a match and walk away?
I mean, that's definitely what I've done in the past. I have no qualms about just getting up and going. I can be a quitter if I need to be. I guess I think at some point in time, like some things are a fit in one moment in your life and the next time they may not be. That's why we break up. That's why we move jobs. I think it happens. But what I do is I sit down and then you start thinking like, is the grass really greener on the other side? Like, what am I really upset about right now? Where am I feeling stuck? Is it? And I think that's why going back to that greater vision, one of the questions that I always ask myself is what I'm doing right now meaningful for my life? Is it pushing me forward? Is it aligning with my personal values? And at the end of the day, with what I do, I'm always mentoring my team and I love my team. They're great. And so to see them grow and change, so I try to like really focus on that. It's when like everybody's angry. I'm like, oh, well, maybe the grass is green.
Yeah, right. I know. But it is really rewarding to see other people. And especially when you're mid-career, or you're not brand new. Like you're to the point where you have a team and you can mentor those people and see them grow. And just like even establishing their vision for themselves and seeing them reach it is really cool.
I find that incredibly rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things that's draining for me, and we talked a little bit about this, I think in a couple podcasts, is clients. And that's why I don't deal with clients anymore. Like that was a time when I realized, okay, is client work giving me meaning and purpose and fulfilling my values? And maybe it could have at a different point in my life, but where I was then, it wasn't. It was really draining to me. I wasn't a great person when I was doing it. And that's why I moved from agency work and contracting work to move in-house. And that was a big shift for me. And I guess quitting something, but I knew deep down, like this was not providing me with the meaning that I was looking for.
We'd like to thank our good friends at Monogram Appliances. We've partnered with Monogram for over a decade with our design firm, Laura Design Collective, and we're so happy to partner with them in producing the Design Dash podcast. Monogram sources the highest quality materials for their appliances, from commercial grade stainless steel to unscratchable sapphire glass. Monogram ensures lasting beauty and unmatchable quality for your luxury kitchen. And not only that, but they have an amazing team who we love working with, and we know you will too. So thanks, Monogram.
And that's a great example of just seasons of your life. And when something changes and you're just like, wow, that's really just dragging me down, it's okay to make a shift. And I think everyone makes a shift in a different way. Like you said, you can just like walk away, like burn it down. I'm done. But there's also just like the planning. You could plan to walk away too. Like what does that plan look like? I'm more of a planner. I think I'm more of but then I also just get stuck in the planning and then nothing changes. So maybe the burning it down is the way to go.
I don't know. I'm becoming more of a planner, but in my previous lives, for sure, always burn it down. Now I think it's easier for me to realize that that's just a momentary lapse in my judgment. And I think one of the things that I do now is I really try to find purpose in some other things. When I was with, I have family, doing something with my husband, like picking up hobbies. And
that's what I was going to say, because you're doing the yoga certification. So like that's something like that is huge.
Yes. Yeah, that's been big. Of course, now it's like a really big undertaking. I'm like, oh gosh, do I really want to do this?
Yes.
Because everything gets that way too. But and yeah, I think also stepping away, like vacations are really good. One of the things I was realizing this morning, we were just talking about this, I had sick kids all weekend and
yes,
you're not getting enough sleep. And I was like, gosh, when was the last time I took a vacation? I was like, oh, it was 3 months ago. Okay. Maybe that's another thing too. It's so easy to work yourself into the ground. I do it all the time. And then I don't come up for air. And I'm like, I hate everything. And it's not, that's obviously not the case. I just need to rest.
I agree. I mean, yeah. And especially this time of the year. So we're going into the holiday season now and it gets so crazy. It is so true. Yeah. You need to rest. I mean, I just went to Vegas this weekend. That is not rest. That does not freaking count. It's wonderful and it's so much fun. But yeah, just like taking a step back and just being quiet sounds really nice. But I'm like you, like I have to find something. It can't just be, I can't just be focused totally on work. I have to have something outside of it. And I usually do something like I take a course or I learn something. That's where maybe the same for you with the yoga certification, but I like to learn. And it may not be going back and getting a degree because that's a lot of work. But it is like some certification or just adding to my skill set, but it could even just be something completely different. Like it doesn't have to be design related or business.
That's a good thing too. That's something that you mentioned is that commitment to lifelong learning, which again, bringing it back to core values, personal core values, but also that's a big core value for us at the design firm is that we're committed to lifelong learning. And I think that's another thing too that has helped me get out of those burnout existential crises moments is, gosh, I haven't learned something new in a really long time. And that's why I wanted to take the yoga certification, not even to teach, but just to do something with a purpose, right?
Yeah. I love that because things get stale. And sometimes I just have to push myself out of my comfort zone entirely. Like I just joined a women's group and it's a year-long commitment and we meet once a month for a full day on a Sunday. But it's completely different than what I would ever have done in my past. It's called the Sacred Feminine and it's very, woo-woo. It's very spiritual and like we're out in nature. Like the first meeting, we're outside and like there's incense and it's very like we're chanting and it is so different than anything I have ever, you know me, like I don't do this.
That does not sound like you.
No, but I'm pushing myself out of my comfort zone. And that is exciting for me.
Yeah, no, I think you have to.
You inspired me with your yoga certification. I was like, I need to do something totally different.
I'm always like, well, I can get a little woo-woo. I think sometimes it's good for me to reconnect with that because then when I'm so stuck in work, which, my work is just very linear and analytical a lot of the times, like I have to inject it with some woo-woo stuff. Like right now I'm doing some fall gardening and that's exciting for me, which is probably pretty lame, but
I wish I could garden in the fall. I can't because we're about to be under snow, so it doesn't happen.
That's true. I think it's the cultivation, like, cultivating people at work and then, seeing other things grow. And that's really nice. I think what's interesting in this conversation is we haven't really talked about work stuff. It's like when you're feeling really run down with work, you just got to get away from it is what it sounds like.
I think so. And also, just take a step back. Get out of the details, take a step back and look at the big picture. It sounds really boring, but I make to-do lists. I make lists for everything. I'll just write out like, okay, what is my purpose? And I go back and I'll look at like what I wrote down last year or something. And I'm like, some of this I accomplished and some of this is just ridiculous. Like what was I even thinking? But yeah, go back to purpose and vision. I agree.
What's one of those ridiculous things that you're like, why did I want to do that?
Oh my God. Usually it's like, and it's not ridiculous. It's something I would love to do, but like learn to speak Italian. When the hell do I have time to learn to speak Italian? It's not.
When you're living in Italy.
And for what reason? Exactly. Like when I move and I immerse myself in the culture, sure. Or like teach a university level course. What am I doing? I don't have time for that right now. I say I don't have time. It is not a priority for me right now. But I go back and I look at that and those are lifelong things I can do. But those are the kind of lists I make just to pull myself out. And what do I want for myself?
Yeah.
I also work with
those things we're learning and teaching.
Yeah. Learning and teaching. And I can do, and then I have to also take that perspective, like back to my work and say, I am doing that in these ways. And so that brings me back to like, everything's not totally shitty. Like there are some good things here. It's fine. Yes, I'm getting yelled at by this client for almost no reason. Sometimes I screwed something up royally and yes, I should be not yelled at. No one should ever be abusive, but whatever. So I have to look at that and just think like, it's not that bad. It's okay. Everything's solvable.
Always. I think getting out into nature too is really good. That's always a big like serotonin, dopamine reset for me. To just get away from constantly being available. Like that to me is so draining.
God, even when I'm in nature, I'm available.
No, I'm not.
I know. That's so true, though. That's a really good lesson. Actually, I don't make myself available when I'm in this women's group. I completely shut it down and I very much immerse myself. And I think that actually, that's when I'm happiest, I think, is when I'm really fully present for something and I'm immersing myself in it.
Yeah, 100%. Now, have you ever had those times in the past where you couldn't get that passion back? Like, when did you ever burn something to the ground? You know, I've done it many times before.
I haven't done that in a long time.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I don't know that I see that as an option.
Really? Oh man, it's always an option.
I know. And then I come back to it and I'm like, well, if I'm going to burn it down, then I may as well try to make it work and just go all in.
That's a great mindset to have.
I do that. I think like, well, if I'm giving up, then screw it. Like, just go all in and see what I can do with it. If it's going to burn down anyway, what does it matter? Just go for it.
That's nice. Now I'm just like, I'll burn it down and then Luke and I can take a little vacation and
just take a vacation. You don't have to burn it down. But yeah, actually, that's a good point though. Cause you're like, you know, I could burn it down. Screw it. I'm walking away. But you know what? Instead, I'm going to just take 2 weeks off and see what happens.
Yeah.
Like, what's the harm at that point?
Well, now you're making me feel like a quitter, but yeah, I've definitely just.
No, I don't. I mean, I think if that's what works for you, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a time where I've just been like, screw it. I'm not that free. I think I'm too type A. Because there's nothing wrong with just like looking at something and saying like, that is not serving me. I need to walk away.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that, honestly. And I'm actually really envious of people that can do that. And it's not that I can't make decisions. I can definitely make a decision. I think it would just be a much longer process.
Yeah.
For me. I don't know why. Something to work out in therapy.
Well, now I feel too tied to my kids and those kinds of responsibilities. Just like, well, I need to be steady and stable. But I think
because it's too late to drop them off at the fire station. Like,
right, exactly. Well, no, I mean, they've taught me a lot of just not be. But again, sometimes I miss that spontaneity. Like I miss just picking up and going, and it's just for me, or even like if it's me and my husband, like we're just led by emotion for that entire day. Like, I think this will be good. I want to do that. You know, and I don't get to do that enough. I think that's going to be my big New Year's resolution is I want to do that at least 4 times a year, like one day a quarter. I'm just going to be free, led by emotion. I'm going to do whatever I want to, like obviously within reason. But try to have as few limitations on myself as possible.
Because you'll make arrangement for the children. You'll be like, "Hey, you're going to your grandparents for the day, and we're out."
I might bring my kids with me, depending on how I'm feeling that day. Right? Like, I think that sometimes it's just when I get into too many rules, and of course, then in my job, I'm in charge of the rules. I'm just like, I don't want those rules right now.
I'm making these rules, and I freaking hate them. That's actually a good point, is that now at this stage of our careers, like we're really there's nothing holding us back from making those rules. Like we can do whatever we want. Sit with that for a second. Like we can do whatever we want. So what is it? It's really establishing what the hell do you
want? An airplane.
I just got off an airplane. I'm done with that. But I mean, yeah, maybe it's that we have too much freedom.
It could be.
No, that's not it. I like my freedom. Like, that's why we did this in the first place. But like purpose, I don't know. I think purpose is up to you. No one can set it for you. I think it's just stepping back if you have lost your purpose, it is stepping back and just reestablishing it for yourself and taking the time. I think that's a big thing for me too, is I've got to take time. I've got to get out of it, get out. I've got to just get out.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the spontaneity that you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Spontaneously contacting a babysitter or my mom, being like, here, take these children. I think that's the thing too, is it's just, you're right. Sometimes I put those barriers upon myself, right? Like I'm putting those things up when in reality, I can make that decision to really just do whatever the heck I want to. But that really takes me back to, it's been a while since I took a vacation. So I think that's why it's hard. And, we are getting into the end of the year, which is, it's a great time. It's the best time of the year. It's the most exciting time at the firm. We do so many great team building things that really, of course, like get me back to my purpose, because then we're doing things with the team and I love seeing them grow and thrive. But then also it's like the busiest damn time ever. And you just go crazy dealing with it. So maybe I just need to have a good spa day before I jump on into this craziness.
I think that sounds good. I used to be really good about just saying, you know what, I'm phoning it in today. I'm done. I'm playing hooky today. I'm not doing anything. I haven't done that in a really long time. I think I'm going to do that.
That's what you need to do. That's what I'm going to do. 4 times a year. I'm just going to be like,
bye.
I'm unavailable.
But I did go through just I went probably a year just feeling extremely lost and what am I doing with myself? I'm creatively blocked. I'm not feeling passionate about anything. What's happening? And I'm out of that now. So I can look back and say God, that sucked.
Yeah.
Why was I there? I don't know. I think I was
midlife existential crisis.
Right. Just one of those simple midlife crises. Yeah, but I think I can look back and say wow, I was really in it and it was really bad. But now I think it's just taking a step back and intentionally looking at your life and just saying, okay, you're right. What are my values? What does bring me happiness? What should I be doing?
Okay. So what's the one thing for me? I think it's the spontaneity. I have to have something spur of the moment. I'm going to do this. So I'm going to make a plan. I'm going to make a plan to be spontaneous. How does that sound?
I like it. I'll tell you, my coach, a coach I work with, Lois, says you need to create space for yourself. A lot of times I feel I'm just I'm very snowed in. I don't even know the right term, but I have a lot on me. And so she's just you know what? You've got to think about it differently and imagine giving yourself space. So I'm going to give myself space. How's that for vague?
Yeah. We're just providing all the answers today in this podcast. That's why I preface this by saying, go to the article. The article is a lot more structured. It definitely has.
And then you can journal. You can journal. We have a journal feature. So you can go through those 14 suggestions and actually follow them and write your thoughts. It's a really cool feature.
Yep. Journaling has been scientifically proven to really help you find that self-awareness and to find that space within yourself.
Yes. Journaling. It is huge, actually. And I am not the biggest on self-reflection, but I will journal and it will help me. Okay. So there you go. We're going to plan to be spontaneous. Melissa's going to plan to be spontaneous and I'm going to give myself some space, like a bubble around myself. I'm feeling good about this. We'd love to hear what you're going to do. So visit us on our socials and chime in. I'd love to hear what you're up to and maybe we can implement it ourselves.
Yes. But all is not lost. You can find that purpose, even if it means burning things to the ground, which we don't recommend.
Or making a plan to burn things to the ground. So yes. Yep. So thanks for listening.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening. Make sure to check out our next podcast coming live next week on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. In the meantime, you can find us and more wonderful stories like these on designdash.com. And make sure to follow us at Design Dasher on Instagram and TikTok. Till next time.